So hello and welcome back to the greenhouse. So it's the first time that I've brought the camera back down here for a little while. I had been down the plot the last time you saw me, starting off a bit of work there. But the last week or so the weather's not been all that brilliant. So I've been working on a bit of a project in the greenhouse which I thought I'd show you. Now I know I mentioned a little while ago, and I think I mentioned last year actually, about building an automatic watering system for the greenhouse. One of the issues that I've had previously is that it also gets really hot in here, so I water stuff, it dries out really quickly, or if I go away for a few days nothing gets watered and everything just fries basically. So I've set up a watering system that I can run on a timer, or I can just hit a button and it waters everything in here from a tank. So I'll give you a show around of what's here, and you can give me any ideas on how to improve it. Let's go and have a look. So here we go. This is the sort of main hub really of this watering system. This black crate down here, it's a tough crate, so it's really solid, and has allowed me to drill holes in the sides without cracking the crate. So in here, obviously it's filled with water. We have a 12-volt submersible pump. It's the type that you use in caravans and that sort of stuff. This feeds water up this pipe to the system. And as you can see, there's a little cable coming out there, which is plugged into the smart plugs that were already in this greenhouse behind that panel. Now, obviously, those smart plugs are 240 volt plugs. So I've got a transformer in there, which knocks it down to 12 volts to power this pump safely. Because they're smart plugs, it means that I can use timers and things like that to water at a certain time for a certain length of time, or several times a day without me having to come out here and water. So you can see there's 3 pipes that come into this. There is this pipe here. This pipe on the other side has a float valve, much like you'd have in your toilet system. This just allows me to have additional water coming into the system without overflowing this. So this pipe here runs up to the water butt that I built into this greenhouse when I built it. So effectively we've got up to 150 litres running through this system, which does mean that it can be left for, you know, probably a week or so if I go away and still keep watering my plants. There's also another 2 pipes you can see here. These allow any excess water from the system to flow back into this black crate so that nothing gets wasted and we don't overfill everything. So if we follow the system around, the water pumps the water up this pipe here, which then comes along up to almost the highest point in the greenhouse. This just means that we can then use gravity to help feed everything. There'll obviously be some pressure from the pump, but that's not going to be able to force water without the help of gravity all around the system. So it then splits into 2 to feed the 2 different sides of the greenhouse, both of which have got a stop valve on them so that we can turn off one side of the greenhouse or use them to adjust the pressures to what we want within the greenhouse. So if we look at this side first, as you might remember, up here I have the very small seed trays that I used to put flowers in. Now this was always a really big problem keeping these watered because of where they are. They're right under the plastic, they get very hot, and it does mean that the water evaporates really quickly. But now obviously we can keep them filled up a bit better. And what they've got on here is little hose lock little hose lock sprinklers. So when the system comes on, these will sprinkle water out and keep below well watered. Now obviously these are quite deep seed trays. So what I've done, as I've done with all of the parts of the system, is there's capillary matting on top of gravel. This just means that the water can kind of surround all the gravel, keep the capillary matting wet but not drown the plants. In between each of these there is piping, so that if one of these gets to a certain level it will spread the water across all 4 of these. And there's also additional drain holes in the front if it does become too full, and these will just drip down onto these trays below. So this piping runs all the way along those trays. Again, there's another stop valve on here. This just means that I can either turn off everything below and keep those flower trays watered, or I can adjust the pressure. So if there's not enough pressure to keep the sprinklers flowing, I'll just close that one slightly, and that just builds up a bit of back pressure to fill these. Now it's still a bit of a mess in here because I'm not using all these trays at the moment, but essentially what happens is there is a connection here which allows water to come into the tray. The water then starts filling the tray, and then at the other end we've got the same thing. When it gets to a certain level, water will start flowing through this tube, through a small bit of pipe, into the next tray, and the next tray is exactly the same. Only difference is I've actually put this one together to start using. This one I've ended up using offcuts of capillary matting because I have started to run out. But again, at this end, we've got the same. And what you'll notice I've done is I've tucked the capillary matting underneath these holes here. Main reason for that is this has got gravel underneath, much like the one at the top. And what I don't want is gravel getting into the pipes and blocking them. So once it exits this one, it travels down a pipe into the layer below. Now there's stuff on top of these at the moment. I've put grow trays over the grow trays that are in this part of the system, just because I need the space to store stuff at the moment. But once I've started planting, I'll take all that off. And we basically have a mirror of what's above. So we've got 2 grow trays connected in the middle that run along to that end. And we can see once we get to that end, there's piping that leaves there, travels underneath, comes round this corner and heads back down to the tank. So once that side gets enough water, any additional flows back to the tank. If we go back to this side again, where it splits, we've got the same. We've got a tap on this side here so we can adjust the pressure, and it then has another split here. So coming down, again, another stop valve so that we can adjust pressure or turn this side off. This again comes down to a tray, much like the other side, that's connected to another tray. However, the other side of this split comes down to a pipe that goes across where the P guttering is and allows all of that to be watered as well. Now that has got, once again, a stop valve on there so that if I want, I can turn those off completely, or I can use it to sort of adjust pressures on there as well. So these trays, like I said, are exactly the same as the other side. Those come along to this end. Piping then comes around, comes below here. So the water comes down this pipe, and we've got a T section here, which means that we can change where the water goes. So if this stop valve here is closed, the water will go into the grow cupboard. If it's open, it goes into the piping and flows all the way back to the tank. The valve is closed, the water builds up behind here and goes through the T section on here. And as you can see, that T section comes into the grow cupboard. Again, we've got another stop valve up there so that we can turn off this section. And that feeds into this grow tray. So this is exactly the same as the other grow trays. It's capillary matting on top of gravel so that it doesn't flood but keeps it moist. The only difference is the piping comes into the corner of this, not into the middle. As you can see, I've got some of my chili plants in here under the Spider Farmer SF 1000, I think it is. And again, the water, once it gets to a certain level, starts exiting through this pipe in this corner. And then close that cupboard, comes out from that cupboard back into this tank, completing the full circle. So I thought I'd just demonstrate the system working. So you probably recognize this as the Amazon Alexa app. All my smart plugs I have running through Alexa. So in theory, I could turn the watering on just by telling Alexa to turn the greenhouse watering on. You can also see I've got all the different lights that I've got in here and thermostat on this. So all I need to do is I can either set up a routine and not have to worry about thinking about when to water, or I can just hit that there. and you can probably hear some water flowing behind me already. So here we are. This is the side above the grow room. You can see the water starting to flow into here. This will slowly fill up in here before moving through at the other end into the next one. And above here you can see that the peas are being watered by these sprinkler valves as well. Water does drip out the end, but it does just end up going into the grow trays and moving through the system. I do need to adjust these a little bit because they're a little bit on the powerful side at the moment, but because of all the valves that I put in here, that's quite easy to do. And over this side, we've got very similar as well. So we've got the valves which start to fill up. Obviously I've not finished this side yet. I need to gravel and capillary mat these trays. But again, we can see we've got the water dripping into these trays, and where it overflows, falling into these trays to enter the system again. And at this end, we've got the slow trickle of water coming into this grow tray here, which again will feed itself all the way through the system, keep them topped up to a certain level, and any excess will all flow back into the black crate at the end. So there we go, that is my automatic watering system. As I said, it's something that I've just bodged together, made up myself. It's all the push fit fittings that you get from B&Q or Toolstation or anywhere like that. As well as just the cheapy 15mm plastic piping that you buy again from B&Q, Toolstation, anywhere like that. As I've said, it's something that I've just made up, so there's going to be lots of tweaks and things that I can do to make it better. I think I've got it at a good level to start with at the moment, to the point where I'm going to start using it to water my plants now. But I'm sure there's going to be little tweaks and things that I find along the way. If anyone has any ideas how to improve this system or any add-ons or anything that I can put onto it, stick it in the comments. I'll take a look, and you never know, I might end up doing some of your ideas. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Take care. Happy allotmenting.